So to begin our transition logic project, I'm going to create a new project here. So I'm just going to select this P tab, and I'm going to click on it, and then I'm just going to call this TL3. Now every element that we make needs to be saved within inside of this transition logic folder, and every scene that we make needs to be in here as well. So I'm just going to slide it within my transition logic folder here, just like that. And this is where I'm going to place every element that I need. Now I have a couple of images that I want to use for this project and some fonts. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag these in that folder as well. You can copy them or just place them in there. Doesn't matter so much about the images. You know, you can use pretty much whatever images you want. But there are two images here that I want to kind of create from scratch to use throughout this project. And to do that, I'm just going to use a plugin here called Dynamic Texture. So I'm just going to go into the built-ins, into the TS tab, and slide this dynamic texture down onto a group. I'm going to go into the Dynamic Texture plugin, and we have two tabs. There's a Texture tab and there's a Dynamic tab. I'm going to click on the Dynamic tab. First, what I want to do is create a gradient. So I'm going to click on the gradient, and now I'm going to choose my color. So I have a foreground color here. So I'm just going to choose a blue color and a background color, which is black. And I'm just going to leave it as black. And we have an option here to choose a direction. So we can go horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. Whichever one you want to use is fine. I'm just going to leave it on diagonal. Now I'm just going to take a snapshot of this. I'm going to go into my TL3 folder, into my image tab, and take a snap. So I'm just going to click this little snap button. I'm just going to call this blue. It's a little bit big, so I'm going to go ahead and double click on this and go into the image editor. And I just want to use this crop and add function here to kind of crop out the extra space. So here, I'm just going to adjust each side here until it's right around the blue. I'm just going to hit apply and then hit save, and it crops that image off, and now it's just a solid blue image. So I'm going to create one more image here. I'm going to use the same setting here, and this time I'm just going to create a light blur instead, and we're going to use a gray color. So I'm just going to use white for the foreground color, and the background color we'll use a little lighter gray. So we can make some adjustments here for the position, the spread, and the power if we want. And again, I'm just going to hit snap, give it a name, and hit OK. Once again, I'm just going to double click it to go into the image editor. I'm going to use this crop and add again just to kind of readjust the size of it. Once I like it, I'm going to hit apply and then save. Once it's saved, you can hit close and it takes you out of the image editor. So now I'm going to go back into my S tab here, and I'm going to start by creating our main or master background scene. And within this main or background scene is what's going to hold all of our animations and toggle directors. So I'm going to go ahead and right click and create new scene. You can call it anything you want. I'm just going to call mine master, and I'm going to click OK. Once we do that, we see the thumbnail here. I'm going to double click on the thumbnail to open up this scene. Now I'm going to begin building my lower third. As far as organization, you can do it however you want. What I'd like to do is I'm going to add a new group. I'm going to name this one main. Everything that I design is going to go inside of this main group. So to begin, I'm going to start with the lower third. Again, I'm going to add a new group. I'm just going to call this one lower third group. Everything related with the lower third is going to go inside of this group. Myself, I like to organize this one step further and add another group inside of the lower third. And everything related to the design of the lower third, I'm going to throw into this group. So now I'm actually going to start designing my lower third. I'm going to go into my built-ins, and I'm going to use a Nagi. So first I'm just going to slide a Nagi down into this design group. I'm going to click on the Nagi editor, and the width I'm just going to take to 450, the height to 25. I'm going to set all of my bevels to 0, and I'm going to set my stretch to 25. I also want to set the horizontal alignment to left and the vertical alignment to bottom. So then I'm going to go into my transformation editor. I'm going to reposition this Nagi to kind of center it up and then adjust it down to the bottom of the screen here. I'm going to go into my server, go into my images, and I'm going to map this gray image to it. So I'm going to click on the image, and I can set the mapping to whatever I want. I'm going to use vertex. Now I'm just going to copy this Nagi, and I'm going to slide this blue image on it. I'm going to go into the Nagi editor, and this time instead of the vertical alignment being bottom, I'm going to set this one to top. So I'm going to go into my transformation editor, and then just readjust this a little bit. So I'm sliding this up on the Y axis here, and I'm just going to reposition the X position as well, just to line these up a little bit better. Once I have this, I can pretty much start animating these two Nagis. Before I do that, I'm just going to rename these. So I'm just going to call this one blue L3. We'll call this one gray L3. That way it'll be a little less confusion when we're working in the stage and we need to know the names of these objects. So first, I'm going to work with our gray Nagi here, or our gray lower third. So I want the gray lower third to grow from the left side. So I'm going to use the width to animate it. And I'm just going to set my timeline here to 30. I'm going to hit set key. Then I'm going to rewind my timeline to 0 and reset my width to 0. And I hit set key. So when I hit play, my gray lower third grows from left to right. Now also, I'm just going to set this gray lower third back in Z space -1. Because when we go to animate our blue lower third, we kind of want it to grow at some point, which will cover the gray lower third. So now I can just concentrate on my blue lower third animation. So I'm going to use the Nagi width and height to animate this. And first what I'm going to do is just set this to 250, and this is going to be our first state right here. So I have my timeline set to 30. I'm going to hit set key. I'm going to rewind it, and I'm going to set the width to 0 and hit set key again. Now when I hit play, see they both animate on. So I want to make a second state for this blue lower third. So I'm going to advance my timeline here to 60, and then I'm going to make the width here to 450 and hit set key once again. Now I also want my Nagi to grow for the third state, so I want to adjust my height to 50. So once I have it set to 50, I'm going to hit set key and then go into my stage. Once I'm in my stage, I can readjust the timing of it. So you can see when we scrub the timeline here, what's happening, our lower third grows from each place to place. So now I can begin to set up our transition logic. First, what I want to do is rename my director. So I'm going to right click on this director and I'm going to give it a new name. And I'm just going to call mine L3. Now I'm going to begin to set up my stop points. So at the very beginning here at 0, I'm going to highlight the director. I'm going to hit add stop point. I'm going to highlight the stop point. I'm going to name this one O because this is the out state. I'm going to advance my timeline to the next state here. Again, I'm going to add a stop point. I'm going to highlight that stop point. I'm going to name this one A. I'm going to advance my timeline to the next point. Highlight my director. Click add stop. Click on the stop and name this one B. Then once more, I'm going to advance my timeline. Highlight my director. Click add stop. I'm going to name this one C. So now we have basically 4 states here. We have an out state, we have our first state, which is A, we have our second state, which is B, and we have our third state, which is C. Now with transition logic, we need a direct correlation between every state. So what I'm going to do next is actually go ahead and start adding my additional states. So first, I'm just going to advance my timeline to the next point. I'm going to click on my director and click add stop. I'm going to highlight this stop point. I'm going to name this one O. So I'm going to click save here. And just to explain the theory behind this, as far as stop points, what we have right now is a state O, A, B, C, and O. We need to find every direct combination of these states. So you can see the brackets here. We already have A to O, and A to B, B to C, and C to O. What transition logic does is it searches right for these combinations. If it doesn't find it, then it searches left. So we have our combination of O to A and A to O. We have a combination of A to B and B to A. We have a combination of B to C and C to B, and a combination of C to O and O to C. So we still need a couple more combinations. We need an A to C, and we also need a B to O. So what we need to do is actually add additional states or stop points in our timeline. So what we should wind up with is a state that looks like this, and every state has a way to get to the other state. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to jump back into our master scene here and set up these additional stop points. Now what may be helpful is to add actual keyframes for everything. Even though we don't have anything on the height at O, I'm just going to go ahead, position my timeline here and add a keyframe there. And I'm going to add a keyframe there. So on our gray Nagi width, I can highlight this and go ahead and add a keyframe there. So this is the part that can get a little bit tricky, and just need to be careful when adding your keyframes here. So in C, even though I have no keyframe here, I just may want to add these just to keep everything in a linear fashion a little bit easier for us to copy down the road. And if I come down and highlight each thing, I can add a keyframe wherever my timeline is. So I added these keyframes for C. Now the next point would be to add each one for O. Since this stop point is O right here, and this first stop point is O, all I need to do is just copy each keyframe. And if I hold down C, I can just click and drag that keyframe and place it there. Now I accidentally created an extra one, so I can just delete that one. And I want to do this for every position or every keyframe. So I'm going to hold down C and copy this blue Nagi width here and take that one down to O. I also want to do the same for this gray Nagi width. Highlight the O. I'm going to copy this keyframe as well. So I'm going to slide this one down by holding down C. So I'm going to add another stop point here. I'm going to click on my director, click add stop point. I'm going to highlight this one. Now this time we need it to be a B because we need an O to B combination. So I added my stop point. Now I just need to copy each one of my B keyframes. So this is my B state right here. So I'm just going to copy each one of these keyframes as well. I'm just hold down C, slide it right, hold down C, slide it right, and hold down C again and slide it right. Again, we're going to advance our timeline, click on the director, add another keyframe. This time I'm going to add another O. So I'm going to name this stop point O. And again, I'm going to copy all of my O keyframes. So I'll select the keyframe, hold down C, and copy it, each one. And if you need to readjust keyframes, you can do that as well at any point. Again, we advance our timeline, highlight the director. I'm going to add another stop point. So this time we still need a C to A and an A to C. So this stop point here is going to be C. And I'm just going to find my other C stop point and copy all of these keyframes right underneath. So I highlight this keyframe, I slide it down to this stop point. I highlight my other keyframe, I slide it down to that C stop point. And then same for my gray lower third. Now we need one more stop point here, so I'm going to advance my timeline one more time. Click on that director and add stop. This stop is going to be A, so I'm going to name it A, and I'm just going to copy each one of my A keyframes here. So I'm going to copy that one there. I'm going to copy this one down to that A stop point and copy my final keyframe down to this A here. So when we play through our timeline, we should be able to get to every state. And if I continue through this, we go from O to A to B, B to C, B to O to B, B to O to C, and C to A. Now, again, what transition logic does is it searches right for this combination. If it doesn't find it, it searches left. So creating these additional stop points now gives us every combination to go to. So if we wanted to start the timeline out and go right to C, what transition logic would do would search all the way down to here, and it would get to the O stop point, and it knows here's the O, and the direct combination to C is right there, and it would play this combination right here. So once we have that, the last step in this is to actually create the toggle group. And the toggle group needs to be called the exact same thing as the director. So I'm going to slide a new group down here, and I'm going to call this new group L3. I'm going to hit enter. Then I'm going to go into my built-ins, into my container folder here, and drag the toggle down onto my L3. I'm going to click on my toggle and set default keyframes. We should see a little animation wheel show up here, and if we click back on the stage, what we have is it now created these additional directors here, creating our toggle group. So once we have this, we can save this scene. Now we need to begin our call-up scenes. But before we do that, I'm going to take a snapshot of each state so that we have something to align it with. So I'm going to click continue here, and it takes us to our first state. And I'm going to click a snap of this, and I'm just going to call this L3A. So I'm going to click continue here, and it takes us to our second state. I'm going to take a snapshot of that. I'm going to call this one L3B. Then I'm going to click continue again, and it goes to our third state. So I'm going to take a snapshot of that and call this one L3C. So again, I'm just going to save this, and within our same folder here, we're going to right click and create a new scene. I'm going to call this one L3A, and I'm going to double click on that L3A scene to open it up. First thing I want to do is go into my scene settings and drag my snapshot in here. So here's my L3A. So this will allow us to align our text. First thing I'm going to do is add a group here, and then go back, find a font that we want to use, and add the font to the scene. So I'm just going to use this one font here, and I'm going to slide this down. I'm going to place this font over our blue here. So let's scale it down, place it over. I'm going to increase the Z position to 1. So you can scale it to any height that you want. I'm just going to leave it as is, and you can type in whatever you want here. So if we want to add something like a breaking news tab, we can add that right there. I'm going to copy this font and just slide it down to the next line. And if I want to create a material for this, I can. So I'm just going to right click, and we'll call this one black. And I'll double click on this just to change the color here to black. I'm going to hit save and close and drag this material down on this one. And again, if we want to change our text here, we can. We can type something in. And again, if you want to adjust the scaling of this, you can as well, or position, or however you want to position this. Just double check your Z position, make sure that is forward 1. Next step that we need to do is actually add the control text function. So I'm going to go ahead and add my control text to my first one. I'm going to click on this. This is our field ID 1. And I'm going to add another control text to my second line of text here. This is our field ID 2. Now when we did that, it added this object. I'm going to click on this object, and we need to turn on our transition logic. So I'll turn this on. Background scene we know, so I'm going to type in master for that. Our state, since this is our first state, A, I'm going to type in A for the state identifier. And the layer identifier refers to the director or the toggle. And we named that L3. Now before I save this, I'm going to go back into my scene settings. I'm going to turn this active, or this background image, off. And just to let me know that this is a call-up scene, I'm just going to change the background color here. So I'm just going to change it to blue. And this automatically quickly lets me visualize that this is a call-up scene. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. I'm going to go back into my server, into my scenes here. I'm going to create another call-up scene for our state B. So I'm going to create a new scene here, and we'll call this one L3B. So I'm going to go ahead and double click this and open it. Again, I want to start with a group. So we'll also go into the scene settings and slide our snapshot into the background image. And again, we can go grab our fonts and slide it down into here. So here's my first font. We'll scale it down. We'll position it over our bar. Again, we'll move the Z position up to 1. And if you want to retype something here, so we can give it, maybe type in a reporter's name. You can do something like that. We'll copy this font. I'll add a material to this one. Slide it down on the Y position. And maybe this one is the location. So we can type in a city or something. And again, if you need to reposition, scale it, do whatever you need to do, you can. So we're going to go back into the built-ins. We're going to add the control text to our first line. That's field identifier 1. We're going to add the control text to the second line. This is field identifier 2. We have our object that it created on here. We're going to turn on the transition logic on that. Again, background scene is master. Our state identifier this time is B. And our layer identifier, again, is L3. I'm going to go ahead and save that one. We're going to go back into the server, create one more scene for our third state. So we're going to create new scene. I'm going to call this one L3C. Click OK. I'm going to double click it to open it. Again, I'll start with a group. Then I'll go into my scene settings, grab my snapshot for L3C, and put it in the background image. I'll go ahead and grab a font, slide this one down. Again, we'll place it over and scale it down however we want. We also will want to adjust the Z position of it. bring it forward 1. And if we want to change the text on this one, we can as well. Now on any of these, you can use your special box here to turn on a text box to kind of constrain proportions, or you can use your max size found within the tools folder if we wanted to kind of constrain or shrink any of these. So if I only want my font to reach a certain size, I can use this max size here just to kind of set boundaries for it. So we could random type in numbers here, and we'll just randomly select 500, and that should constrain the proportion enough. So I need to go ahead and add the control text to this one. So we'll go into our control folder, add the control text, and this is field identifier 1. I'm going to click on my object control, turn transition logic on. Our background scene is called master. Our state identifier this time is C, and our layer identifier is L3. So again, I'm going to turn my scene settings here in my background image. I'm going to turn that off and just change the color of this one too. I'll hit save, and I'm just going to go back into my L3B scene and turn that background image off and change the color in the background too, and hit save. So now at this point we should be ready to test our multiple state lower third. So what I'm going to do is put this on air mode, and I'm going to go into Trio and test this out. So once in Trio, what I want to do is import these scenes, and I'm going to click on this import scenes, find the folder where I saved them, and I have them within my transition logic. So I only want to import my callup scenes. So I'm just going to highlight them and import these. So once they're imported, we can now begin to test it. So I'm going to bring up artist and Trio at the same time and try to play these out. Now when I do a direct take on these, it should come up with our text, and when we do a direct take to the next one, it's going to transition to the next state, and same for our third state. So it's all transitioning. Now it's in state C. If I want to go back and transition to state A, I do a direct take out on that one, and it transitions. So we can go from any state to any state. If we do a direct take out on this one and we want to go from out to state C, we can. So we do a direct take on C, and it goes right to that particular state. And again, we'll try that with state B. So we'll do a direct take out on C, and since we're in the out state, we want to go right to state B. We do a direct take on the B scene, and now it goes to that one. So that is the first part of this multiple state transition logic scene.